They'll be talking how Howard was leaving with him.
An enjoyable visit to Alcatraz.
American Indians would occupy Alcatraz for 19 months. It began a political movement that spread.
Every year, more than 1 million visitors from around the world come to this national park, the site of the federal penitentiary on Alcatraz. For most of them, their hope is to see the cells of famous criminals and walk down the great corridor known as Broadway. But that's only one small part of the much bigger story of Alcatraz. An island defined by isolation, with a history that stretches back 15,000 years to the end of the last ice age. "150 centuries ago, ice age glaciers melted, the sea level rose, and a hill in a valley became an island in a bay. Shortly thereafter, the first humans settled here. They were foragers who relied on the plentiful plant and animal life, and they may have used the island as a safe haven while crossing the bay in storms. Then around 1775, the first Europeans, Spaniards, sailed into San Francisco Bay. One of them noted the many pelicans, or Alcatrazes, on a rocky island in the bay. And from that Spanish word came today's name, Alcatraz. 75 years later, California was a new state. Gold was coming down from the nearby Sierra foothills, and business was booming in the city of San Francisco and San Francisco Bay. To protect its resources, in 1850, the government decided to build the West Coast's first operating lighthouse and a fortress on Alcatraz. The fortress initially included batteries or cannon emplacements, a defensive living quarters called the Citadel, and an impressive guardhouse. During the Civil War, and for the next 20 years, fortress construction continued on the island. One of the most important new buildings included 10 cannon rooms, or casemates, where you are now seated. But even as the armaments reached 111 cannons, technological advances in warfare made the fortress obsolete. However, this isolated island was well suited for a prison, and throughout the remainder of the 1800s, the number of military prisoners and the variety of military prison housing increased. In 1909, the top floors of the Citadel were replaced by today's cell house. The military prison was also given a new name, U.S. Army Disciplinary Barracks, Alcatraz. What was life on the island like during the days of the disciplinary barracks? Well, for the officers, their wives, and their children, life was relaxed, positive, even carefree. But for a former inmate like Earl Nevins, life on Alcatraz was grim. He still remembers his punishment for attacking a prison orderly, solitary confinement.
That was a dream, something that I'd like to forget. And all you can do is think. And you don't think too good of things, I'll tell you. I don't think that I could go through it again.
By the 1930s, the cost of running a facility on an isolated island forced the Army to close their prison. But for the growing FBI, the Bureau of Prisons, and the Justice Department, it was the perfect place for the era's most hardened criminals, the perfect place for a maximum security penitentiary. In 1934, the government transferred Alcatraz from the Army to the Justice Department, creating what they hoped would be a super prison.
And here's America's double back, grim and inaccessible.
The worst of the worst, the toughest of the tough, were sent to Alcatraz. They included criminals like Alphonse Scarface Capone, George Machine Gun Kelly, Alvin Creepy Carcass, and the Birdman, Robert Stroud. All isolated in a prison boasting only 4 rights: food, clothing, shelter, and medical care. Everything else, from reading materials to work, was a privilege. For convicted spy Morton Sobel and many others, the most significant privilege was visiting the recreation yard on weekends.
You have a choice here, which you didn't have back then. You put right up on the head. This was freedom. Freedom to do what you wanted to do.
This is the isolation of
In the federal penitentiary, the opposite of freedom was the complete loss of privileges and human contact in solitary confinement, also known as the hole. Here, the most troublesome prisoners were deprived of light and sound for as many as 19 days in a row. It was cold and mentally torturous. It led to some unique methods of passing time. Convicted kidnapper Jim Quillen passed his time by closing his eyes, throwing a button in the air, and then trying to find it.
It's a real mental struggle to keep yourself together. I mean, you want to scream, you want to cry, and believe as many times you cried again.
Just a 2-minute stroll below the cell house on the top floors of the barracks building and in the apartment buildings on the old Army parade ground, there was another life going on. This was the home life of the correctional officers and their families. Theirs was a traditional, almost suburban lifestyle, but one deeply influenced by the isolation of the island. Transportation on the Warden Johnston, the penitentiary's boat, determined when they shopped, when they went to school, and when they went on dates. It was a lifestyle that fascinated outsiders.
Oh, I think they thought it was cool or weird. Take your pick. I mean, people were fascinated. Even when I was in the 2nd grade, my teachers would, they wanted me to do show and tell about Alcatraz. That was always the subject of what I did on my summer vacation, living on Alcatraz.
But by the early 1960s, Alcatraz was no longer considered effective in managing incorrigible inmates. That, combined with public criticism of the harshness here and the sheer cost of operating a deteriorating facility, ensures the prison's closure in 1963. The following year, the island was transferred to the government's property management agency, the General Services Administration. The GSA tried to sell it, considering various proposals, including turning it into a monument, a university for American Indians, a gambling casino, and a space museum. By the late 1960s, there was still no decision on the future of Alcatraz, but the times, they were a-changing. Richard Nixon was president. There was a war in Vietnam, and people were developing new political power. In this environment, Alcatraz became a focal point of the Native American Indian movement.
One lone little light bulb was up here that this way as the Indians came off the boats onto the water march, up the ramp, while the security guard for the island was jumping up and down saying, "Mayday, mayday, the Indians have landed."
On a cold November morning in 1969, a group of political activists landed on Alcatraz to protest the treatment of Native Americans. Their occupation of the island would last 19 months. Initially, there was strong public support, but within a few months, unity on the island declined and dissension increased. Then, in May of 1970, fires destroyed some of the historic buildings on the island. Some blamed the Indians, others government provocateurs. Public support declined further, and the government realized it could now take back Alcatraz. On June 11, 1971, 20 marshals removed the remaining protesters. The occupation was over, but for Native Americans, it was just the beginning of their political movement.
I think the significance of the Alcatraz occupation is that it demonstrated clearly a growing sophistication on the part of the American Indians to address their needs, their ability to launch massive political movements that clearly endeared themselves to the American people.
Following the Native American occupation, the General Services Administration examined the apartment buildings that were here on the parade ground. These had been homes for guards and their families during the penitentiary years. They were also used and lived in during the 19 months of the Indian occupation. The GSA found that they were severely damaged, that they were a hazard and too expensive to repair. So in 1971, the GSA tore them down. Then in 1972, these ruins and the rest of Alcatraz became the responsibility of the National Park Service as part of the newly created Golden Gate National Recreation Area. Today, the Golden Gate National Recreation Area stretches across nearly 75,000 acres of the San Francisco Bay Area. It is the world's largest and most visited urban national park. Every year, people from all over the world come and explore its human history and natural resources as well. Here on Alcatraz, nature's wonder can be seen in fascinating tide pools, remarkable colonies of nesting birds, and in unique plants and stunning flowers. In your visit to Alcatraz, you'll also discover self-guided trails. an award-winning audio tour, special guests, and ranger programs and demonstrations. Ask a National Park Service ranger about today's special activities. Thank you for joining us, and we hope you will return and discover again and again the secrets of Alcatraz.
Island of the strange bird, pelican. They think was the bird that was sitting out here when the Spaniards came in the San Francisco area. They looked out at this rock and they said, La Isla de los Alcatrazes. Can you guys in the back come over to this point here? Can you all step forward? Come on. A little bit closer. Big boy right here. Step forward. Come on in. Shauna, take a picture of this. Closer. Can you let, okay, you guys, we gotta let the truck through, okay? He's been very nice and waiting, so everybody come to this side of the truck.
Well, anyway, we took pictures of the birds, and we were still stuck in fast water.
Radio station announcing San Francisco, lock your doors. 300 convicts are going to be swimming to the city. Didn't like having a prison out here in the middle of the bay. You want to get a foot, look. Last time you ever said that. Across the roof, they had made a raft out of raincoats.
You don't hear nothing? He hasn't got nothing. We're here, volume?
I guess press full volume.
You hear?
What? Would you like him right here at the time?
Outlaw. Just press that.
Why? What do you guys think?
Based on true stories, Depature, Escape from Alcatraz. Clint Eastwood, one of my favorite movies. I think we all like that kind of movies. We sort of like the underdog. You know, whether it be The Great Escape, World War II, American soldiers escaping from prison, or Escape from Alcatraz, convicted bank robber getting out. I have to say, what I studied was going to find out. New documents, sometimes what we have said years ago we found out was that he would not be.
Voluntary confinement. You guys were a tin can.
Is that what it was? The hole, is that what it's called, the hole?
The first, when a fire brought out behind water power. Right. Angel Island. Come on.
I already eaten these, it didn't matter, okay?
Waiting, trucking means.
Ladies and gentlemen, the ring might quick brings you out here, and any one of those boats you can leave. But being that you get with it, I tell people it takes about 2 hours to see this island. So you'll probably be on the last boat at 6:30. Don't miss it. Come on in real close. I'm going to stand up here on the stairs so you can see who's yapping at you here. That's the ticket. Come on in real close though. Because there's 300 people. We want to fit everybody nice and comfortable down here on the dock. How is everyone? Are you ready for this? You've been waiting all your life. Alcatraz. Now you're here. Yes, sir.
That was free, wasn't it? Oh, yeah.
Yes, there is a Deutsch guided tour, and I will tell you in uno momento here all about that. We have in Spanish too. German, Italian, French, Japanese, and English too. Is this a beautiful day? Oh, yes. It's like this every day in San Francisco.
Yeah, right.
Today's a little nicer. Yeah.
Last night watching the mist rolling over.
People getting off the boat, join us over
And it
here.
wasn't going slow either.
We're going to tell you about the Rock. What's going on today? How do you learn about this place? That's my job. Very quickly, I will explain, give you that information. Somebody asked me about the tunnels. The tunnels of Alcatraz. Where are they really here? They saw that movie, The Rock, with Sean Connery. Have you seen that movie? You know, the theme to it is a group of tourists on a tour with a ranger on Alcatraz are taken hostage. And Sean Connery comes to save the day, and he enters the island through a series of tunnels, and it's kind of like something out of Indiana Jones, the ride, going through on mining cars and so on. The answer is, that was all filmed down in Hollywood. There are no such things as the tunnels of Alcatraz, at least that they have in that movie. But it was entertaining, yeah? Did you enjoy that?